Some Arlington neighbors gather to find out more about the eastern coyote. Can humans and these canines peacefully coexist? Tonight, dispelling the many myths about some of our most mysterious neighbors. Many libraries have reading bees and spelling bees, but what about just bees? What are two robust colonies of honeybees doing just feet away from copies of The Secret Life of Bees at the Robbins Library? We'll tell you. A different kind of marketplace making a grand entrance downtown. Women-run businesses only, and it was such a success, it may make a return engagement for the holidays. And we'll tell you about all the fun to be had at Spy Pond Park, where a woman's and man's best friend take their owner for a walk for a cinematic treat. Everybody's invited, except possibly Cruella de Vil.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News.
Arlington police need your help in finding a vehicle they say was involved in a hit and run. Hello, I'm Brenda Mahoney.
And I'm Eleni Canines. According to witnesses, a bicyclist was struck here at the busy intersection of Mass Ave and Mystic Street shortly after 6 p.m. on July 24th. The motorist was reportedly making a right-hand turn off Mystic onto Mass Ave when the bicyclist was hit. Police say that's when the driver headed west on Mass Ave without stopping. The bicyclist was treated at the hospital for minor bruises and later released. Anyone who may have been in the vicinity of the intersection on July 24th around 6 p.m. is asked to call Arlington Police at 781-316-3944.
There's been a rising number of phone calls to Arlington's police department concerning recent coyote sightings. According to police, roughly a dozen calls every day. That's why a meeting was held July 31st at Town Hall to address residents' concerns. Arlington's Animal Control Officer Diane Welch was joined by John Magaranis, an expert from Project Coyote. Both dispelled some of the misinformation about the animals before a crowd of roughly 200. Magaranis says coyotes are here because over the centuries, humans virtually wiped out all their natural predators like black bears, cougars, and wolves. And so it's our fault we're coexisting with them now. Still, coyotes help keep the rodent population in check, and they like to be where we are not.
And we have seen coyotes.
We've seen coyotes promenading up and down Ridge Street, and we love seeing them, and we're delighted with the lecture tonight to find out how to behave around coyotes and all of the good they're doing with taking care of the rodent population. So we're really pleased.
And we do not have pets, but we came because we want to learn, and we did. This was fabulous.
I have a dog, so I've heard a lot of the commotion about coyotes and things like that, and I've been kind of interested in learning more about it and, the appropriate ways to not interact with them when I'm out with my dog and stuff like that.
I've definitely heard them in my neighborhood. I have a very timid dog, and I wanted to come and make sure that she'd be okay. Yeah, I basically learned that I don't think that I need to worry too much. Coyotes are probably just as scared as us as some folks maybe of them.
ACMi's Jeff Barn met Magaranis and Welch prior to the meeting in an area where some coyotes live, just a few hundred yards from civilization. Even though at one time coyotes were foreign to these parts, that's now history. And like it or not, it appears coyotes like it here, and they're here to stay.
Just a few hundred yards from the noise of our everyday existence is a more primitive and serene neighborhood in Meadowbrook Park on the grounds of Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Here you'll find plenty of wildlife living right next door to all of us, including an increasing number of eastern coyotes, just like these caught on video in New York. An animal experts say has staked a claim in the northeastern portion of the U.S. and unfortunately is very misunderstood.
It's typical coyote habitat. It's a lot of dense cover for them to, run and hide. I'm sure this place is loaded with rabbits and mice and rats. They'll eat, 80% of their diet is rodents. So, this is a great place for them to come and feast on all kinds of Arlington's rodents.
I love them. And we need them in this town. We have a tremendous rodent problem. People are complaining so much about the rabbits eating all their flowers and garden decorations and all the planting that they do. So the coyotes are going to keep that in check.
Animal experts say this creature rarely ever looks for a fight, and that coyotes go out of their way to stay out of ours.
And they're not going to eat your babies, they're not going to eat your grandmothers and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you let your cat run loose at night, fair game. And you can't blame a coyote for acting like an animal. That's what he does. If you leave your dog out in the backyard and it's in a 6-pound dog, you can't blame the coyote if you lose your dog. And believe me, I love dogs more than anything on this planet. And the last thing in the world I ever want to see is a dog being taken by a coyote or hurt in any way. So this is really important to me, that people get that it's their responsibility to take care of their animals and not feed them to coyotes or other wildlife.
Recent research has shown that the eastern coyote, the kind of animal that lives in a setting like this in the northeastern U.S., are of a hybrid species. They're way different than their western counterparts. Their DNA makeup consists mainly of 60% western coyote, 30% wolf, and 10% dog. And an eastern coyote is bigger than a western coyote. An eastern coyote weighs anywhere between 30 and 40 pounds. A western coyote weighs 25 to 30 pounds. So obviously an eastern coyote is going to have a much bigger meal.
I just learned last week that one fox can eat up to 20 pounds of rodents per day. So let's take that to a coyote who's a bit bigger than a fox. So it's probably about 25, maybe even, I'd say 25 pounds of rodents a day. They will eat because they don't know when they're getting their next meal, right? So they're very opportunistic hunters.
Not to bash the media, but the media just hasn't been very friendly to coyotes. They repeatedly report coyote sightings under the umbrella that it's aggression. And people see this stuff on the news and they get the feeling that these are aggressive animals, and they're not.
So rather than punishing animals for their natural behavior, maybe we can protect all creatures, domestic and wild, living among us, using just a little common sense.
I love that we have so many hidden, beautiful little green spaces in Arlington. I know people are frightened. That's why I asked John from Project Coyote to do this meeting.
Diane Welsh hopes that in the very near future, we can learn to coexist with the eastern coyote. After all, this creature has roamed these ancient lands for 15,000 years. That's much longer than humankind has ever called these parts home. For ACMi News, I'm Jeff Barnd.
Magaranis says if you see a coyote, haze or scare away the animal. How? Stand tall, wave your arms, and yell at the coyote approaching them if necessary. And maintain eye contact. The coyote will know you mean business, and that will deter them from encroaching on your turf.
Well, from coyotes to erosion. At Spy Pond Park, work at the water's edge is still getting some much-needed attention. Crews are now planting bushes to cut down on recent erosion problems there. These young plants are just part of Arlington's $640,000 Spy Pond project. Workers began stabilizing the pond's shoreline last month. They're using a natural barrier made of coconut hair, which will eventually decompose but will separate the vegetation from the pond. Above the new plants, workers are tying mylar bows to a grid. These bows reflect the sunlight so much, crews tell us, they scare the birds away so the surrounding vegetation can take root. Spy Pond's banks have eroded over the years in part because of bad weather, making the ground unstable. Sources of funding for this project come from the Community Preservation Act, a Community Development Block Grant, and a pair of generous donations by the Friends of Spy Pond.
The best ideas for clean energy often start at the local level. Arlington is no exception. And as a result, Arlington was one of 4 municipalities celebrated at Town Hall by the Environment Massachusetts Research Policy Center this week. You may recall Arlington's month-long designated bus lane pilot in the fall of 2018. In addition to cutting down some travel time for bus riders, Arlington showed it's leading the way in cutting down carbon emissions and promoting 100% renewable energy from sources like the wind and the sun. Environment Massachusetts leaders say residents here just don't talk about working toward green energy. Arlington is making it happen. After last year's bus rapid transit pilot program converted the former Mass Avenue parking lane to a bus-only lane.
It pretty significantly shortened commute times for people who were choosing to use the bus. So as Ben said, we were taking steps to try to make it easier for people to use transit, which thereby is reducing emissions from the transportation sector. And I think we actually opened bids today to be able to paint the lanes permanently, so we can implement that on an ongoing basis and try to make that improvement permanent. So we're very proud of that, and I think it's emblematic of the type of work that we need to do in the transportation sector and beyond, of focusing on how we can best educate residents about a paradigm shift. At first it seemed like, how could we do this? How could we take space that was dedicated to parking and make it a bus lane? But after really not all that much study, it became very clear that that parking wasn't being utilized at that time of the morning. So why not take that space and put it to good use for a sustainable goal? So I think there's a lot of effort like that, whether it be heat pumps or split units like we have cooling us here, just changing the way people think about the way we do things is a critical way of us achieving our goals.
Other municipalities recognized by the Research and Policy Center: Newton, Watertown, and Somerville.
A new name and some new rules when it comes to recycling in Arlington. The town's recycling and trash guide came out last month. It's now being referred to as the Toward Zero Waste Guide. Read it and you'll find some new do's and don'ts, but since we're visual people here at ACMi News and the flyer may have passed you by during summer vacation, we have the dirt on what's in and what's out, literally. And as I found out from the town's recycling coordinator, the changes are meant to make things easier on you. So here we are in the midst of summer, and you may have noticed in your mail the new recycling guide, Working Towards Zero Waste. I'm Brenda Mahoney with ACMi, and I'm here joined by Charlotte Milan with the town and the recycling coordinator for the town. Can you tell us what's new with recycling or working towards zero waste in Arlington?
Sure. Well, we've joined what's called the Recycle Smart program, if you hold up the guide for a second. This is a statewide initiative, and it is to help make the recycling programs across communities more consistent. So it does include some changes that people might be a little surprised by, but we think it's a really good move for the town to join this and make all the confusion that comes along with recycling something that we can start to, as a whole state, sort out and make easier for people to understand.
Okay, so first off, what are the changes? Let's go with that, and then we can explain them a little bit.
The big category that will no longer be recycling is cartons, and this includes juice cartons like this or milk cartons, as well as some of the soup and broth containers that people get in square containers that are a little bit smaller.
So those are considered actually paper-made cartons, correct?
Right, they're mostly paper, but they have plastic coating that is the part of them that makes them difficult to recycle. And while it's theoretically recyclable, and the Carton Council of the United States is working on making it something that can be marketed, for now it cannot be separated by our material recovery facilities across the state. So for now, it is not going to be accepted as recycling, and we'll put this in the trash instead.
And again, this is a decision that the state has made to keep recycling efforts going in each town, because it has to remain profitable at some aspect as well.
Right, it does. And we all have to work ourselves at home to make some adjustments to help keep our recycling clean.
Okay, excellent. So speaking of clean, we have a pizza box here. This is actually a clean pizza box, courtesy of Yasso, where Capri used to be in Arlington Heights. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. So what is the deal with pizza boxes now?
So residents have done a really good job of being thoughtful about their pizza boxes, sometimes recycling the tops, but throwing away the bottoms if they were greasy. Now you can put the whole thing in the recycling, as long as it's empty. We don't want slices of pizza or little plastic doodads or a piece of protective paper, that wax paper stuff. But if it's just the cardboard box, even if there's grease on the bottom, that's fine. You can put the whole thing in recycling. So we're all excited about that, because we all seem to eat a lot of pizza.
That's right. It's a pizza-heavy area.
Cardboard of all kinds, paper and cardboard, still a lot of it goes in our trash. We don't really understand why, but it is all really recyclable, including all of your junk mail, magazines, cardboard boxes from
deliveries. Seems like it's one of the easier ones. It's the plastic that we sometimes question, but you're saying the paper products as well. So people get on those paper products. Those are recyclable, except for something new that was part of the statewide program that we don't have on display here, but paper shredding?
Yes, paper that's already been shredded is not able to be managed by the sorting facilities, so that now needs to go in the trash. We'll try and get that message out there, but it's going to be disappointing to a lot of people, because I know that data security is also an important issue for members of our community, and we don't want to discourage that. There are other ways to get paper shredded, and then when it's shredded with a facility, it can be recycled. It just can't be recycled when we're shredding it at home and putting it out. So please put your shredded paper in the trash from now forward. We have monthly recycling center events people can come to. It's a great place to bring your questions. We have one coming up on Saturday, August 10th, and then one in September. I think it's the Saturday the 7th.
And that's at the DPW on Grove Street. For more information on the latest recycling rules, you may go to arlingtonma.org/recycle. Next week, we'll have another segment on recycling tips, this one with a summertime focus. What to do with those empty iced coffees and sunblock bottles? The answers may surprise you.
Hockey East announced that its commissioner will step down at the close of the 2019-2020 season, and his name may ring a bell. Arlington native Joe Bertagna has held the position since 1997, making him the longest-serving NCAA hockey commissioner in history. His hockey career began in Arlington, where he goaltended for the high school team from 1967 to 1969, what's considered by many to be the golden age of hockey in Arlington. Bertagna tells ACMi News he's grateful to have made a career out of his greatest passion.
I think we grew up with a sense that there's work and play. You know, school was work and after school was play, and you had a sense when you grew up you had to go to work, and then when you weren't working you could play. But if you do it right, work is play. And I've been blessed to have all these years in sports where I don't look at the clock like I looked at it in a classroom, where it's like, I hate this class, 20 minutes left. You know, I don't look at a clock thinking I can't wait to get out. More often than not, when you're in your season and you're doing your work, you look at the clock and you realize, wow, it's 4:30 already. I got a lot of stuff I got to get done. And that's what every young person should hope for, that what you end up doing for a living is not tedious and something you can't wait to get home from, but that's when you're really happy, when you're at work and you're getting things done.
Bertagna attributes his love of this sport to the legendary Ed Burns, who led Arlington's hockey team to 5 state titles during his 50 years as head coach. We'll have more on Bertagna's future plans and how his time in Arlington influenced his career next week.
More than 24 women-run businesses set up shop at Uncle Sam's Plaza July 27th as the Boston Women's Market made its debut in Arlington. The pop-up marketplace was founded 2 years ago and gives female entrepreneurs the chance to bring their products to specific markets. And this type of setting allows these women vendors to separate themselves from the typical business setting that some say at times could be overwhelming. The finds included vintage clothing, bracelets, and other jewelry, as well as assorted books, pet products, and collectible antiques, all under these tents.
Boston Women's Market is a wonderful opportunity for women entrepreneurs and makers if it's their first time putting themselves out there. We're so inviting, and it's an experience that you don't have to be nervous about coming and debuting your goods at our market and putting yourself out there, because putting yourself out there and starting your own business is scary enough as it is. So we are all about bringing that community feel and supporting one another.
Now, men are invited without a doubt if they just browse, or they, of course, bring their money, or if they just stand around, correct?
They are welcome to come, shop, volunteer. We have a lot of great men, husbands, boyfriends, partners that come and support their creative women entrepreneurs in their life, so they are more than welcome to come.
I love the women's market, one, because it's such a communal type feel, so everyone's helping each other out. This morning it was rather hot and my space was completely sun-drenched, and my booth mate here, Isabel, offered me to share her tent with her, and so we're sharing a tent, and you can't find that type of camaraderie anywhere else. Women helping women, that's what it's about.
This is my second show at the Boston Women's Market. It's a great group. Everyone's really supportive of each other, which is really nice. You want each other to succeed because, we're all in this together, creatives.
Organizers say this women's market may return to Arlington just in time for the holiday shopping season in late November or early December.
This week, Arlington is paying tribute to one of its favorite sons. Elias Katsas passed away on July 25th.
He leaves behind a loving family here in Arlington, and he also leaves a grateful nation for his bravery and his valor. You may recall Elias was the Grand Marshal in this year's Patriots' Day Parade. He helped fight the threat of world tyranny 75 years ago in the European theater and lived to tell about it. But Elias never really liked dwelling on the Second World War. His remarkable life, however, captured the imagination of his granddaughter Lexi. So much so that Lexi wrote a book about her grandfather hero. A look back now at a man who showed so much love to his family and friends, a love that will forever be returned in kind.
Being the Grand Marshal is because I'm representing all the guys that were there and that are now still here. We're getting to be fewer, but we're still here.
93-year-old Elias Katsos has a fascinating story to tell. At 18, he joined the U.S. Army in 1943, attached to Battery C, 552nd Field Artillery Battalion. Within a year, he would be engaged in among the most horrific battles of the Second World War, including Normandy and the Battle of the Bulge. In the fall of '44, Katsos says his luck nearly ran out in Holland.
I got hit by a bomb, dropped by an airplane at night while I was sleeping. And when they found me, well, they got me back to a Heathfield hospital. Like I said, I went back to England to recuperate. It took about 3 weeks. It wasn't a quick journey. They thought I was going to die on the way back.
Katsos would be honorably discharged in 1945, returning home in a merchant marine vessel with a Purple Heart. Another chapter of his life began post-war with a marriage to his wife, Konstantina. Soon after, 4 children arrived, and the youngest would go on to have the internationally aired Steve Katsos TV show right here at ACMi. A fascinating family tale that wasn't lost on Elias's 9-year-old granddaughter, Lexi, seen here with her 12-year-old brother, Luke. Lexi penned the book, Papu is My Hero, a story about World War II.
I'm really happy because everyone's going to get to know about his experience, and also it's going to get to be passed on because if I didn't do this, then no one would know about World War II.
I'm the luckiest man in the world. I'm very happy about that. I think guys that came back and had families, they know what I'm talking about. It's a great feeling.
Elias is the very proud grandparent of his grandchildren, one of whom is not shy to tell a remarkable story that Elias will not hesitate to downplay.
It's a dream. It's a bad dream, but it's way back, so I don't think about it that much.
But a 9-year-old young lady, separated nearly 80 years in time from the greatest generation, has given it much thought. Payback for her granddad, who managed to come home when so many so long ago did not. And for something Elias instilled in Lexi not too long ago.
He also showed us that we should be thankful for every single day that God gives us in our lives.
For ACMi News, I'm Jeff Barnd.
So glad that message gets to go on. Well, the funeral services for Elias Katsos was July 31st. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Katsos family.
And to Elias, we thank you for your service and for all the gifts you leave behind.
Indeed. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to vote for the first time? If you're a U.S. citizen, meet your state's requirements, and will be 18 by Election Day, you can vote. But first, you need to register before your state's deadline. Check with your local election office. You can register there, or you may be able to register online at the Department of Motor Vehicles or using the National Mail Voter Registration Form. Your election office may send you a voter registration card listing your polling place. On Election Day, that's where you'll go. When you get there, you may need to show an ID to vote. Then, fill out your ballot. If you don't know how, ask a poll worker. If you know you won't be able to get there on Election Day, you may qualify to vote by mail. Remember, voting rules are different in every state. Learn more about voting at usa.gov/voting.
Anyone familiar with the Robbins Library already knows that building is full of valuable reference material.
But if you go to the 3rd floor, you will see a lot of busy bees up there. That's because, well, look. This is Arlington's Honey Central. You'll find 2 busy honeybee colonies working side by side to pollinate trees, flowers, and shrubs within a 3-mile radius of the library. And they're making the most delectable honey. The Friends of Robbins supports this organic project by maintaining the worker bees, drones, and the 2 queens, all with their own abode, of course. Beekeepers recently did a full check of both colonies. They looked at all the stages of brood, including eggs, which of course creates another generation of these fascinating creatures. Colony space has also been expanded to increase ventilation. You can see some bearding behavior, that crowd of bees where they collect around or below the entrance to the hive. This is a normal process and helps to maintain the proper temperature in the beehive. ACMi News is coming back here to talk to Friends of Robbins members to get an update on how the bees are working and the honey is flowing, so stay tuned.
Well, now that we've weathered some incredibly high, hot, sticky, oppressive summer weather conditions this week, it's time to celebrate those dog days of summer with what else? Your dog. ACMi's third annual Fido Fest will be served up like a plate of fresh milk bones at Spy Pond Field, August 3rd at 7 p.m. Fido Fest is the area's only festival that celebrates lovable dogs and their human pets. ACMi welcome folks to take homemade videos of their hardworking, personality-driven, and sometimes quirky canines. Then on Saturday, August 3rd, these pooches and their loved ones will watch videos of their four-legged owners outdoors on the big screen, while munching on popcorn, candy, or if you're really brave, fresh, meaty kibbles and bits. All videos had to be anywhere between a few seconds and 5 minutes, and everyone had to submit their videos to ACMi as part of their homework assignment if the dog didn't eat it. If you missed Fido Fest this year, you'll have to wait for 1 more year or 7 years, depending on whether that time span is yours or the dog's.
Sick and tired of just fanning yourself this summer? If you get off the couch after you're done watching this newscast, of course, you can find some cool things to do on these hot summer days.
Here's ACMi News intern Chelsea Swift with some suggestions.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Swift, and you just heard about ACMi's Fido Fest here at Spy Pond. But there are a lot of other ways to beat the summer heat here in Arlington. You might want to warm up those vocal cords and start practicing for an open mic in September. Until then, let's take a look at some events. For starters, you can head to Uncle Sam Plaza August 10th and 11th. There you'll find Anna Tai, embroidery artist, and Masayuki Sogo, owner of the Zakai USA Robotics. Their fascinating and unique works of art will be on display all weekend. On August 24th at the Arlington Center Yoga Studios, check out an interactive and personal theater performance, Circles of Support True Story Theater. Audience members share moments in their lives that are based on a specific theme. The True Story Theater actors then interpret that experience and act it out. It's a performance that amplifies the similarities we all share in the human experience. On the first Friday of every month, come listen to local performers or sign up to play at Jammin' Java's open mic. Everyone is welcome and it's free admission. Performer sign-up starts at 6 p.m. It's a chance to have fun and belt out your best tunes. Speaking of tunes, on select Mondays throughout the summer, ACMi's Studio B is serving as a concert hall for our third annual Studio B sessions. It's the perfect venue to showcase the talents of local artists. This year, we're focusing on area singers, songwriters with a laid-back acoustic feel. Music that enables you to chill in order to get through these steamy summer days. For information, just go to acmi.tv for all the details. For ACMi News, I'm Chelsea Swift.
Well, lots of things to do either outdoors if it's nice weather, not too hot. How have you been keeping cool? What have you been up to?
I'm actually going to start studio nights here at ACMi in the month of August.
In
Wednesday
the cool
nights.
Studio.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, well, join us then. That'll do it for us here at Studio A. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Brenda Mahoney.
And I'm Eleni Kaminas. We'll see you next week.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.